Let's take a look at how making changes to the settings for highlights and shadows in your phone's editing tools can either make improvements or make changes to the photos that you've taken. Experimenting with those settings can sometimes lead to unexpected results and can really be quite fun. As we consider changing the highlight settings in your photos, you need to know that the areas in your photos with the most light hitting them are known as the highlights. If these spots have lost detail due to overexposure, or the opposite of that, appear too dim, they could benefit from an adjustment in the highlight settings. All right, let's experiment with changing highlights. Let's look at this photo of a yellow iris with water droplets on the leaves and on the bloom, and see how changing the highlights could improve that. I want to bring a focus to those water droplets. So let's zoom in a little bit so we can get a better idea. Come on over to the highlights. And now I'm just going to experiment. I'm going to reduce the highlights. I don't like what that's doing. So I'm going to come up and increase the highlights. And I'm liking this. I think this brings a better focus to those water droplets. Let's see if just a little bit more makes it any better. And it doesn't. So I think right around 30 is the good spot for this with those highlights. So let's look at the before and compare it now with the after. And I think you'll see that better focus on those water droplets. Now let's look at making changes using the shadow settings. The opposite of highlights, shadows are the areas in your photos with the least amount of light exposing them. If you have photographed them too darkly, these spots may lack visual detail. They also may lose contrast if they are too light compared to their surroundings. So with the right balance, the intensity of shadows can lend to more depth and dimension in your photos. Let's experiment with changing the shadow settings. I have this photo of these icicles with the sun behind, and it's just not looking the way I want to. So I'm going to bring up the shadows a lot, up to 100, actually as high as you can go. And I really think that's giving the effect that I was going for. So here you have the before photo and then the after. And I think you can see by increasing the shadows, I was able to bring more of a focus to those icicles. Okay, now it's your turn. It's time to experiment with making changes to the highlights and shadow settings in your iPhone's editing tools. I hope you'll find exploring these different settings helpful as you seek to improve your photography with your iPhone.